All right, we will go ahead and kick off here. Welcome, everyone. How's everyone doing tonight? Awesome. Thumbs up, I see. I'm glad you guys are all here today. Thank you all so much for being here for session number 5 of City University. Again, for all of you guys who are here, as well as anyone that's watching this feature recording, my name is Bolivar Gomez, and I'm happy to serve as your official host/moderator for City University. Just a couple of announcements before we formally kick off with our speakers for tonight. I do want to just mention that I did send out the evaluation links for you all for our session 4 speakers. So if you haven't done so, please fill out those evaluation surveys, as our city team really values that input that you guys give us. Also, later this week, I did mention last week that we are going to go on City University tours this year. So at the end of October, we actually will go on 3 separate City University tours for you all. So later this week, I will be sending out the registration for all of you guys to attend, hopefully those, if you guys can certainly make it. And I think you guys really will like those. It's a great way to visit the city and different city facilities that are off-site, and kind of like what we did with the outdoor demonstration earlier today, with getting you guys out into the field and meet our city staff out there as well. Also, lastly, before we get started, I just want to mention that we do have some city swag in the back of the room. So I just want to give a quick kudos to our Office of Solid Waste, who you'll hear later tonight from, as well as our Neighborhood Services Department, and then also our Planning and Zoning Department for providing that swag item. So go ahead and grab those if you haven't already done so. And we definitely enjoy giving those out to you guys every session as well. All right, so to formally kick us off for tonight, we do have a very special guest that is joining us this evening. I'm sure you guys already know who it is. Vice Mayor Jolien Caraballo is here with us tonight, and she has actually been a resident for the city of Port St. Lucie for more than 25 years. And really her passion for public serving began early in life, which was sparked while attending local public schools and actively participating in student governments. Also in November of 2016, Jolien actually took her passion to the next level by dedicating her time to serving the local community, citizens, and small businesses, which she believes are some of the greatest assets that contribute to Port St. Lucie being attractive. So with that said, here to provide some opening remarks for tonight's session, I want to go ahead and welcome our Vice Mayor for the City of Port St. Lucie, Ms. Jolien Caraballo. You're welcome.
Good evening. I don't like to stand behind there because, one, I'm short, if you haven't figured it out. So I don't know how well you'll see me. And I also like to walk around and see how you guys are doing in what we call the well out here. My name is Jolien Caraballo. I'm the Vice Mayor of the City of Port St. Lucie. I was elected in 2016. I moved to Port St. Lucie as a child, and when I moved here, I was actually talking to my friend over here about Port St. Lucie and how there were no cars on the road on Sunday, pretty much. I will never forget my mom when we came off the turnpike, and it was pretty much all woods and the Winn-Dixie, and that was it. Who's lived here for 30 plus years? Because I'm at 30 plus years now. That's an old bio. See, there's not a lot, no, see? So when I moved here, my mom comes off the highway with my dad and starts yelling at my father. I was 11 years old and said to him, I am never moving to this town, ever. There's nothing here. And so shortly after that, 91 to now seems a long time, but as you see, like that, we have gone from nothing but woods to more than 239,000 residents, the 6th largest city in the state of Florida. And it is an honor and a privilege, as I've had the opportunity to grow up here, go to schools here. I attended Southport Middle School and Port St. Lucie High School, go Jags, and now getting the opportunity to be a community partner with you guys and help make some decisions on how we can better our community. I love the fact that we got FCC here tonight. And trash has been somewhat of a topic. Trash talk has caused me to lose a lot of hours of sleep. And actually, it was my first time seeing a demonstration since they've been part of the city. And, at the time, to share a little bit about that time period was so stressful for your council and for, I know, each and every one of you. Not only was I hearing you guys yelling at me, which is fine, I could take that, but then on top of that, I also had 4 weeks of maggots and flies and everything at the front of my house too that I was dealing with when Waste Pro stopped picking up. And we were just dealing with triage mode. We were trying to get someone in here as quickly as possible to be able to get us cleaned up, to get us going again. And one of the things that came out of the discussion at Waste Pro was why they were the failure of service was, well, we can't hire people. There's no one that wants to do this job. This job's a horrible job. And you want to know something? I learned a lot about that job, because we were having to deal with that issue. And there are better ways to pick up trash. There are more humane ways for people to be able to work in the labor market, because technology has gotten us there. You know, my husband's a laborer. He works for AT&T. He digs ditches and lays down line. He's a lineman. And even linemen know that, 40 years ago, linemen laid line differently than they do today. So technology's given that. And to see those two guys out there, working and had a full day of work and come off the line and look happy and look like they've got energy to go home to their family because they've got the right equipment to work with, just, made me feel good. It was like a side benefit to the change that came forward. I was just thinking about my dad and my husband, and I'm like, you know what, it's nice to see them go home and still be able to have dinner with their kids and have a conversation, because they weren't literally picking up 40 to 50 pounds of garbage cans and tossing them in the back all day, because that's what it looked like. So I'm glad you guys got to experience that. And I've been a big part of the city for a long time as a resident here, and I'm open to any questions. So I'm here at your disposal, and I'll open it up to questions and be willing to answer anything you got. Come on. I'm giving you free. So my favorite drink is Coke Zero. I was very happy when I showed up tonight. I like Cuban coffee. If you haven't figured it out, I'm Cuban. So I love Cuban coffee. If anybody, there we go. Yes, Alex.
How long have you been on our city council?
Been on our city council since 2016. I actually operated a small business here. I was director of operations, and during the recession we opened and I grew it, and out of that came residents that came to me and said, we don't have anybody up here that wants to be, that represents small business. And so would you be interested? And that's kind of what got started. But unbeknownst to me, when I was 16, I actually got to serve in student government and sit on the dais at the old city hall, which was the Smurf building. She's shaking her head. She knows what I'm talking about. It was a blue building next to the police station. And I wanted to be an attorney at the time and ended up doing this. But I'd never planned on becoming a politician, but it was really cool to have those kind of memories in student government. So officially started at 16, sworn in at 2016. So it's interesting how those numbers work out. Any other questions? Everyone's good with taxes then? We're good? Yes? Okay, good. I knew it was going to be a tax question. It's okay. I'm ready for it. So it is. So we've already voted on the taxes, and it's important to understand we did lower the millage rate. And everyone, I know you've read articles. Everyone's read articles and has all kinds of opinions on whether or not taxes were lowered. Huh? Double? Double the taxes? Oh, just do it now? No, I would never. Remember, I have to pay them too. It's not like I get a bill that says, congratulations, you're on the council and you are tax-free. Like anything we do obviously affects us as well. We have to be residents of the city of Port St. Lucie. Every one of us are homeowners on this council, so I'm aware of that. And anything that happens, it does affect us as well. What I can tell you is, and this is the best example to give that I can give, is the overall number on the bottom going down. The average rate, mine actually went up the average rate, which was interesting. Mine went up $17 for the city of Port St. Lucie. Overall, with county taxes, my overall tax bill went up about $100 with all 16 agencies, and we only control 2 of those tax lines. A lot of what's happening right now, especially if you're newer here, is the growth of that. And the challenge is that you come in, you purchase a home. Depending if you purchased a home that was just a lot at the time, you might be paying your taxes from your lot, or you might be paying the original taxes from the home that was purchased if it was already manufactured. And so unfortunately, and this is, I continue to, when I appear in front of the realtors groups, I continue to encourage them to help us make sure that the new homeowners coming in are informed of what their new tax rate will be once their property is reassessed. That is a state statute. That is not what the city can jurisdictionally say we can or can't do. So the state requires that your property is reassessed at the current value of today. Because of Save Our Homes, it allows you to be able to grow old in your property once that value's been reassessed, because the maximum value that you can be charged on your home is a maximum of 3%, which does mean that, yes, potentially if property values are going up incrementally, your tax rate will potentially go up, your overall tax, unless you go back to the rollback rate. Now, the rollback rate is really fun to talk about. And it's really cool for someone to have a talking point in the state to say, well, they can roll it back to the rollback rate. Well, and Councilman Bonner made a great point. Guess what? You can lower retail tax, but they haven't, right? Still 6.5% for retail tax while goods have gone up. Are they going back to the rollback rate? I mean, the reality is that unfortunately inflation has created a problem, but more importantly, the city has grown. We're 32,000 more residents than we were 2 years ago. And so I gave the example to a gentleman who wanted to insist that we just tighten our belts and we use the exact same amount of money that we had last year, which is great. I mean, it's wonderful. It's a talking point. Hey, by the way, in case anybody says, they were telling me they're going to vote me out, I'm running for election in 2024 most likely. And so, I don't know, maybe you'll hate me, maybe you won't vote for me, and that's okay. But here's the truth. The truth is if I move one person in your house today, one new person in your house today, your grocery bill might stay the same. Your overall power bill might stay the same. Right? Your overall water bill might stay the same. But if we're being honest, we didn't just move one person in our house. We moved 10 to 15 people in our house. And for me to come up to you and say, oh, by the way, your grocery bill is going to have to stay the exact same number that existed yesterday, that's impossible. We had to hire more than 30 new officers just to deal with the average. The state of Florida has a 2.1, or the national average is a 2.1 officer average per 1,000. Your city, being the second safest city in the nation, is at 1.2 officers. If you don't think that's tightening your belts, and we still provide high quality safety, and then I don't know what more we can do in that situation. We're doing the absolute best that we can to give you the highest quality service at the lowest tax rate possible. And so I say that with heart, in the sense of, I am here to serve you, but I'm also here to help you understand how your local government works. So is the rest of this council. And I've always given an open-ended invitation, and it's not a joke. I read an 800-page budget every year. And I don't have any of my management, were you in my management team meeting, Camille? I don't think you were, hold on. Nope, no one in here is from management, but you can tell, I'll tell you, I tab everything out. I absolutely go line item by line item by line item, and I question everything. And I question, for example, I'll even tell you one example right now that I'm working with finance on. The state of Florida has changed the way that we've got to do GL categories in regards to how we took office furniture or anything that we need to do that's ancillary in office supplies. They want it categorized a certain way, but here's the problem. The categorization that they created basically won't let me track the amount of office supplies from year over year. So I told my finance department, I said, well, let's say this department just ordered a desk and new computers. How am I going to know that that was a desk and new computers based upon this GL to ensure that they don't just ask me for 10,000 more out of that department and then add on another 5,000 the next year, right? So, I get into the weeds with this stuff, but that's my job. But that doesn't mean that can't be something that you participate in. If you want to learn more about your budget, if you want to learn more about where your money goes, please, please, please call me, schedule an appointment. I will pull out my budget book, we will sit down, and I'll be willing to answer any question that you have, because to me, the most important thing is for you to have confidence that I and the rest of this council and our team are doing their job. And I'm gonna close with this. I think the hardest thing about this budget season, and I've been on this council since 16, so I've done several of these, it doesn't hurt my feelings when someone says they hate me. It doesn't hurt my feelings if you call me a mean name. It doesn't hurt my feelings if you hate the rate you're paying. It doesn't hurt my feelings if you're mad at me and you say you're never going to talk to me or you're not going to vote for me. That doesn't hurt my feelings, but it did hurt my feelings when there were people in this room that came up to that podium and said we're doing nothing. That hurt my feelings. Because I can tell you that each one of these people in this room, I'm not talking about myself, don't even look at myself, look at Lois and Mike and Alex and Bolivar and Gus in our communications department. Everybody in this room is busting their butt because they 100% believe in this city and they believe in serving their public. And so I really ask that, remember that we're here for you, and I'm so glad you guys are going to be ambassadors for our city, and if I could ever be of service, just let me know. God bless you all. Good night.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Vice Mayor, for being here. And I really just want to commend some of her comments because there is a lot of work that's being done on the city council's level as well as the city staff level as well. So it is great for her to echo some of that as well. Okay, so we are going to go ahead and start off with our very first presenter for tonight. Our first presentation is from our very own Planning and Zoning Department for the city of Port St. Lucie. And really quickly, I just want to mention that the mission of the Planning and Zoning Department is to assist the public and to direct and encourage quality community development in accordance with adopted policies, codes, and laws which enhance the city, protect the environment, and make the city a better place to live. This is accomplished by 1, implementing the city's comprehensive plan, 2, continued reviews and updates of land development code, and 3, is preparation of innovative plans to direct the city's future. So here to present on behalf of the department, we have our very own Bethany Grubbs, who is our Planner 3 for Planning and Zoning. Welcome, Bethany. Sit there.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me. My name's Bethany Grubbs, and I've been in planning for about 8 years now, here with the city about 2, and a resident for 33 years. A little bit about the Planning and Zoning Department. I'm going to start off here with a little bit of history about planning in general and then dive into the city specifics. How is city planning defined? According to the encyclopedia, it is the design and regulation of the uses of space that focus on the physical form, economic functions, and social impacts of the urban environment and on the location of different activities within it. Because urban planning draws upon engineering, architectural, and social and political concerns, it is variously a technical profession, an endeavor involving political will and public participation, and an academic discipline. Urban planning concerns itself with both the development of open land and the revitalization of existing parts of the city, thereby involving goal setting, data collection, and analysis, forecasting, design, strategic thinking, and public consultation. So what is city planning? It is essentially how everything's space is organized, functions, and looks, and those are the basic concepts of planning. There's many factors that we consider when we're planning, and that's the economy, environment, cultural needs, and transportation needs. So how did city planning begin? City planning is also interchangeably known as urban planning, and it's been practiced since the ancient Greece and Rome days. Basically, this was, you can look back, and they had established grid systems, networks of roadways, and the way that their settlements were constructed. The father of planning was Hippodamus, who was named by Aristotle as the father of city planning in the 20th century. Everything starts with a plan. Our plans here at the city, they're living, breathing documents. They're always changing. The goal of planning is to guide the development of a city so that it furthers the welfare of its current and future residents by creating convenient, equitable, healthful, efficient, and attractive environments. Some things that we plan for are helping the city grow, improved quality of life, positive impact on the community, safe and healthy lifestyle for everybody, employment, improved mobility. Some of city planning's objectives, of course, are transportation, aesthetics, community design, safety, economic development and job growth, natural resources protection, public service, sustainability, and housing. And so everybody loves a good graphic. This basically shows you that Everything isn't as it appears in the surface, and planning and plan review, it should involve everybody, and everything should be connected. Another graphic for poor planning. Install the tree in the middle of the sidewalk. So a day in the life of an urban planner, what do we do daily? Basically, we communicate with the general public. We help everyone from 1,000 or 1 million square foot Amazon facility all the way down to a resident wanting to add a shed on their property and ensuring that they meet their setbacks. We analyze all the data. We count parking spaces. We make sure every new business has enough parking. We conduct inspections to make sure businesses are constructed according to the plans. And with that, we create a lot of maps and diagrams to present to City Council. Who plans? There's a lot of players in planning. There's the private developers, there's the HOAs, the city works with the county, with the state and the federal agencies. Say you have to relocate a gopher tortoise, we work with the state. So there's a lot of players in the planning realm. What are the primary responsibilities of a city planner? First of all, planners, they can work at multiple levels. You could work in local community, state, federal, private, public. And so what we look to do is we get input from stakeholders for whatever the topic is that we're planning. And then we go about our analysis. And then we make a recommendation that what the best plan is for an area. And then we develop and implement that plan. And we work through this with all stakeholders in helping the citizens and developers understand the land development process. And we follow legal standards closely as they are always changing. And who are our stakeholders? Other planners, the elected officials, you, the citizens, landowners, developers, local business owners, institutions such as schools, churches, and nonprofit organizations. Bolivar already stated our mission statement, so I won't repeat it. We're broken up into 15 planning areas, and this is for demographic purposes. So, now into the specifics about our city. The Planning and Zoning Department, our duties and functions, we are the ones that administer the city's land development code. So we have a code, it's adopted, it's in place, we enforce it. We process over 250 land development applications per year. These may vary from site plans, new platted subdivisions, comprehensive plan amendments, special exception uses, which might be a drive-through, a bar, variances if you want to reduce setback due to a hardship, landscape modifications such as we require for buffering if you're a commercial entity abutting single family. To protect the single family neighborhood, we require a landscape wall. Some applicants can seek to remove that requirement. We do landscape plan amendments. We've been seeing a lot of those now due to oak trees in the larger tradition communities. They're wreaking havoc. And annexations. Our duties and functions, we administer the city's comprehensive plan and process amendments in accordance with the state requirements. The comprehensive plan, I like to say, is more the Bible. It's the underlying land use, and then on top you have the zoning. The zoning, so your comprehensive plan, it prescribes your densities and your intensities, and then your zoning sets your standards such as setbacks and types of permitted uses. Also, we assist the public. We have a role here at the city. We respond to all customer inquiries within 24 hours, whether that be we're acknowledging your response or in letting you know we have to research it further. So what's the big picture? You come in, you get a land use approval, a site plan approval, and then you move on to what your building permit. And then from there, You obtain your building permit, you start your construction, and then after that, we go and do our inspections. We go out to the job sites and make sure all the landscaping was installed, the parking was installed, and it's in good shape, ready to open to get your certificate of occupancy from the building department. That's on the commercial side. Chapter 163 of the Florida statute does require that every municipality and county in Florida have a comprehensive plan. It is updated, like I said, it's a living, breathing document. It's updated every 7 years with the evaluation and appraisal report. Our 7 years is coming up, so we will be working to work on updating our comprehensive plan. Just as I said, an example, every land use and zoning has to be compatible. So if you have a ROI, residential office, comprehensive planned land use, we have to match you with a zoning that's compatible. So there's professional, limited mixed use, and residential that are all compatible with residential office institutional. If anyone has questions about what their zoning is, they can always call us to look up their requirements, or they could look at the property appraiser's website. The typical process for a site plan is you file your application, and then you're scheduled a few weeks out to go before our site plan review committee. The site plan review committee reviews all applications to ensure that they are in compliance with the codes and they meet all the requirements of the codes. It's more of a technical review. A plan's never perfect the first time. So then they resubmit, and then whenever everything's all flushed out, then we schedule them for, some applications go to the advisory board first, which is the planning and zoning board, and then to city council, and then other application types go directly to city council for final decision. Our history, good old Port St. Lucie. Here's the GDC legacy neighborhood I grew up in, it looks like. So Port St. Lucie was started by the General Development Corporation in the 1950s. We all know that they purchased land starting over in the River Park area, and they built a bridge, and that was kind of where it all started, from the east to the west of the river there. And they platted quarter-acre lots, and there was no infrastructure, and so this kind of created this created problems for us moving forward. They also had limited land set aside for parks, open space, public utilities, and non-residential uses. Like they said, we were a bedroom community. You had to travel for work. And again, this created challenges because the land uses, the water and sewer connections, and the roads, and this has only been exacerbated by rapid growth. And our growth challenges are, now we have to ensure that we have enough public services to meet the demands of the citizens, which are school, fire, and police stations, and all the infrastructure needs, along with open space, and also annexation. We have currently, I just want to go back, about annexation. We're still growing. We have about 9 DRIs in the city, and these are entitled, I believe it was the early 2000s, and currently we have entitlements for about 33,000 lots that are entitled for single family right now, and so there's a lot of growth coming. And there's nothing we can do to stop that, so we're only planning moving forward because they were vested with the DRIs and the development orders. And so with that, some of our planning issues. Our job is to preserve the livability of neighborhoods. This includes pedestrian connectivity. We came out with our mobility plan recently in phase 2. Nearby open space and recreation opportunities. We're working on new parks. Land use is compatible with neighborhoods. We ensure that when you come in, you're not going to be a gas station or car wash that's going to be obnoxious to your neighbor. And if so, we try to mitigate such. We counter blight. We have the community redevelopment area. They're working on revitalizing the east side of town specifically right now and reducing traffic impacts. When developers come in, they are responsible for certain triggers to widen roadways. A little bit about the history of PSL. pre-1960s, as I said, the 50s, GDC purchased the River Park area. The 1960s is known as the subdivision decade. The 70s was our zoning decade. The 80s was our comprehensive planning decade. The 90s was when you saw the water, sewer, fire design decade. And then we all know in the 2000s, that was boom to bust, and the weather events decade, where we had to pick up after Gene and Francis. And then in the 2010s, we adopted our impact fee ordinance. We created our public art advisory board. And this is when we worked on the Crosstown Parkway project. And we're still in the 2020s, which we are experiencing significant growth. One thing about the Planning and Zoning Department, we also, we manage 3 boards. This is the Planning and Zoning Board, the Public Art Advisory Board, and the Site Plan Review Committee. The Planning and Zoning Board, they are an advisory board. They're recommending body to City Council. The Public Art Advisory Board is also an advisory board who recommends the art pieces that you see around town to City Council and some of the private development sites. And the Site Plan Review Committee, again, this is where we look for all the technical aspects of site plans to ensure they're meeting the code. You can come visit us anytime. We're in Building B in the middle. Feel free to call us. We're happy to answer any questions. You can email planning@cityofpsl.com direct. And that concludes my presentation. Does anyone have any questions for planning and zoning?
Awesome work, Bethany. Great job.
Thank you.
Any questions for Bethany? We have about 5 minutes for questions. So if you do have a question, let's go ahead and raise your hand. So I do see a hand raised right up here.
Traffic, as you already said, traffic is going to be an issue growing, but it's already an issue. It's already Caraballo said, we have less police than the average of other cities in Florida. And trying to build new ways or new roads is not something that you can do tomorrow.
Nope.
But my God, what's the plan with all the cars? What are we going to do? Because it's already a real problem. And I thought with Crosstown, Port St. Lucie Boulevard was going to be better, and it's a little bit better. But not as much as maybe we were expecting, and things are getting, really hard sometimes.
We do have master planning for, looking so many years out. Like, for example, Becker Road on the one portion, east of the highway, it will be 6-laned. A lot of the roadway impacts are on the developer and not the city. So, like, when you have these big subdivisions out in tradition, when they hit a certain rooftop, they're required to widen a road or extend a road to their access point. As far as the existing roads, I can't speak to. I don't know if you can speak to existing roadways.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ann Cox, and I'm also with the Planning and Zoning Department. I've been with the city for a few decades now, so I've got some history. Okay, so there is, in the county, there's the Transportation Planning Organization. So the city does participate in that organization. There's elected council members that sit on that board, and staff does participate in their technical advisory committee. So there are plans for future roadway improvements. You can go to their website, look at it. So for example, you see that the Port St. Lucie Boulevard widening project that is taking place now. That's like phase 1. It will be widened all the way down to Becker Road to 4 lanes. And then they've already got in their long-range plan, what the next roads are going to be that are going to be they're going to be working on. Of course, it's always limited for the funding. The city will look for any, it could be federal money, whatever. There's matching grants and whatnot. But I think, there's obviously, like St. Lucie West has some significant roadway improvement needs out there as well. Floresta was just finished.
And I believe there's plans for St. Lucie West over by Peacock, right? I believe.
Yeah, there's, in the TPO long-range plan,
Yeah.
there's, yes.
And you could access that on the TPO's website, and they have all the roadways, the slated improvements, and what their level of services are. That's the Transportation Planning Organization.
We do have a question here in the back as well.
Hello. So just to piggyback off of what he said about the roadways and stuff, what about sidewalks? Any plans for sidewalks in the neighborhoods or anything like that?
In the existing neighborhoods, yeah, go.
So actually, our Public Works Department, they're in charge of our sidewalk program. When does Public Works give their?
They'll be, I believe, the last session of the program, so they will
Right.
come. Yep.
So they have a whole program that they administer every year, that they have a whole list of the different areas where they're going to be putting in the sidewalks, and the city council will approve that list, and then that is actually part of the whole TPO programming too, because it all has to do with the funding and getting the money for it, and they're going to try to get as many miles as they can installed every year to get sidewalks in areas where they really need to be in these neighborhoods.
New development is required to put in sidewalks, though, usually.
Yeah, I mean, out west, out in the tradition areas out there, that's a different matter, because you've got the developers out there. They're building their roads and infrastructure, but it's this part of the city, that was done so many years ago by General Development Corporation, where, I mean, you have the road and this swale drainage, in a lot of places that, there's places where you really need sidewalks, for folks.
And that's a perfect example of one of the challenges
Yes.
of the pre-platted communities.
I did see a hand raised on the right-hand side here, so I think, Kathleen, you were first, and then I'll get to you next, okay?
Hi, I'm Kathleen. So I know you mentioned about that comprehensive plan, that it's a living, breathing document, and then you're going to be creating a new one because it's at the 7-year mark now. And then also, we had a presentation from the CRA plan for what's going on at the Mid-Florida Event Center. And then on the other side of Crosstown Parkway, I think is that Green River Park, Village Green? They were talking about that being billed as an arts district. And I was wondering if there's any information about that in the current comprehensive plan. And I would love to know what a little bit more about that.
So those areas that you're talking about with the CRA, all of that is on the city's website under like the CRA plan. So the comprehensive plan, per the state law, it's divided into elements. So it doesn't get to that granular level as to like that sort of master concept planning for a specific area, but it has an element about the future land use, like what are the overall broad, like what's commercial, what's residential, that sort of thing. It's got,
Goals, objectives, and
the
policies.
transportation element, infrastructure, natural resources.
All right,
That
so
sort
I
of
guess I
thing.
should speak with the CRA people.
Yes, yeah, they can give you a lot of information on that.
Yeah, that's more higher level master planning. The comprehensive plan is the base for what sets the city.
Okay.
Was the CRA presented last week, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And she alluded to an arts district being created.
It is in the master plan. There
Right.
is reference to the Village Green Parkway, or
Right.
Village Green Drive project in the comprehensive plan. It's just limited.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Ma'am, I believe you had a question.
Yeah. Okay. I have a question. I guess the other committee was here to discuss planning as well. And I'm very interested in Port St. Lucy's future and what type of reputation that Port St. Lucie will have, drawing people to Port St. Lucie for cultural things as well as good schools. But I'm also thinking of, and I know some of my friends were wondering about some of the industrial parks drawing white-collar corporations into the city, and having a reason why they should be coming here. So I was wondering if you were doing any of that planning.
Yeah, so especially out in the western area, in the tradition area, the city was actually got like 1,200 acres from the developer of that whole area out there during the bust. You know, they had kind of gone under, so that the property went into the hands of an insurance company. They held on to it for many years, and I think just gave up on it. So they actually gave the city all that land, and if you ever drive down there, down Village Parkway, you'll see where all those warehouses going up. So that's actually part of the CRA area, who Jennifer Davis, when she gave the presentation, and the city works very closely with the county, the Economic Development Council, and we have a business navigator here at the city to, you know, because they're recruiting businesses to come here. So that area really is booming, you know, with bringing some jobs.
No, we've seen a lot of the warehouses.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I was wondering more of architecturally beautifying, like, corporation buildings, of having white-collar people.
Oh, you mean like office, more office use, more office use?
Yeah, offices.
Well, I guess it's driven by the market, but I will say in terms of white collar, of income, the intent of having these incentive programs for these high-paying jobs is just that it's to attract the high-paying jobs to have a stable economy here. And so that's why they're given incentives. So when we're gonna have Cheney Brothers coming in. I don't know if they're seeking incentives. I believe so, but you have to pay a certain wage.
Are you talking about like what the facade looks like? Like when you say architectural?
Like an office building. Like an office, you know, the office buildings
The tradition,
versus all warehouses.
tradition's governed by their own design standards, and that's governed by their POA. We do have aesthetics and design standards for pretty much the balance of the city, except for tradition and St. Lucie West and Veranda.
But to answer your question a little bit more, I think over on the east side of the city, the city center area over there where the civic center is, I mean, I think that's the area where you could potentially see more of what you're speaking about. You know, it's not that warehouse type, manufacturing type development.
And I think
'Cause
they
there's-
attract them
there's-
out there because they're so close
There's a
to
lot
highway.
of land out there to be developed. It's just, yeah, so.
What was your other question, Kathleen?
That comprehensive plan, is that on the warrant?
Yes, it is. So the current comprehensive plan it's on the city's website. You go to the planning and zoning page. And as Bethany said, we're going to be undertaking, it's first an evaluation and appraisal of that plan, and then a whole process for updating the plan.
And who is going to be creating the next comprehensive plan for the city? Is that?
Everybody, because there's an element for public works, for transportation, there's an element for utility, there's an element for natural resources, which we do have the environmental planner in our department, so that would probably be us. So there's.
There's citizen input. It's a big group effort. Yeah. It's an update
It's an update.
of it, yes.
And all the elements pertain to different departments. So planning will participate in the future land use element, which is element number 1, and a couple others.
I'm sorry to jump in there, but where would they find design standards?
The design standards are also located on our city's website. Go to the planning and zoning tab, and then there's applications, and under that, there's another tab, I think it's other
Instructions and
information-
supplements,
instructions.
yes.
You have the Becker Road Design Overlay Standards, which pertains to Becker Road, and then the citywide design standards, which pertains to the rest of the development. We do require 5 elements from there, so you don't just get a block building with no
gonna bring it up.
articulation. The developers get to choose their 5 elements. We have a consultant, an architect on staff, as a consultant that does review these plans to ensure compliance.
Gus, go to, see the gray box over there, up there, and
And we are
applications,
redoing our website
instructions,
for
regulations,
common
go there.
questions, That we get a lot, what's your setbacks?
And
where
then,
do I
and then
find
go
those?
down to, keep going a little bit. See where it says instructions supplemental? Click on that.
And
That
there's
that
the
has,
design
that has the Becker
standards.
Road overlay, design standards.
Has our impact fee schedule, as you know, we
Yeah,
just did
and then in that gray bar, you'll see, I mean, there's different links too, like there's a link to the city zoning map, which also, you can look at the different layers. It's got the land use plus the zoning on there, a link to the actual zoning code.
What also
And
is really interesting for me, if you're interested in the arts district, we have a very good public art master plan that planning and zoning did. It's right
Good.
there on the left-hand side.
Right.
That's a really nice document to review as well.
We have,
and you see the comprehensive plan is the tab is there for the comprehensive plan. as
we
well.
have time, unfortunately. We have to move on. We have one
Okay.
more question we have to ask. You all from the back here, then we'll go ahead and proceed here.
Kicking us off.
My question is, I understand that the city was built to be residential, the whole city. And so why not rezone some of the busy, the commercial areas so you don't have houses right off the main road without no circular driveway? So why not rezone, have these areas commercial and these areas residential?
That's a great question. Do you want to answer that?
I'll be happy to answer this question. I took forward a text amendment recently that, for safety purposes, did require those houses on the main roadways, require them to build a circular driveway, a TMCO for safety. But also, we have what's called the conversion area, and it's an overlay zone. And so basically, this is Port St. Lucie Boulevard, Bayshore, Becker Road, and those other busy thoroughfares. To transition them to commercial, they are able to develop as is single-family homes because we can't take their zoning rights. They are residential, and then we came in and changed their future land use. So they are grandfathered in a sense, and as they develop, as they come in, each of the lots is a package to develop for commercial. They go through the rezoning, they come in for their site plan. So they are, in a way, already planned for that way to be converted to commercial. It's just they have to come in as a package and apply.
Yeah, so the challenge is that depending upon the area, I mean, in order to meet the zoning requirements, you have to have at least 2 single-family lots. It could be 2, 4, 6. So it's really hard for people to put together these packages because you have people that, they don't want to sell their land. And so it's challenging. But you can see pretty much everything that you see on Port St. Lucie Boulevard or Prima Vista that's developed as non-residential went through that process where they rezoned, put a number of lots together and built something.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for being here. I really appreciate the presentation.
Thank you.
And I will add that I too am a planner by profession. So for anyone that wants to do a career change, or if you have a family member or maybe a son or a daughter, I definitely encourage you all to look at urban planning because that is a great profession that a lot of our planners are skilled in urban planning, and I too am. So I definitely want to just put the little kudos in there for you all.
People can ask you all their planning questions.
All the planning questions, yeah. Yes. All right, everyone. Well, welcome back from our little break here. We're going to go ahead and get started with our second speaker for tonight. You all did do our garbage loader demonstration about an hour or so ago, and the staff that actually set that up was our Office of Solid Waste staff, Michael Hahn and Lois Cardinale. And I do want to give them kudos for setting that up because I think it was very valuable for you all to see the demonstration. But now we're going to go ahead and get into the day-to-day operations of the office, as well as answer any questions that you all may have regarding garbage and waste disposal. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Michael Hahn and Lois Cardinale. Welcome, you two.
Thank you very much. So, in the words of the late great Paul Harvey, now the rest of the story. This is the meat and potatoes of solid waste. The back end that you don't really see that we do every day. This is a bit of a breakdown of the operations team for the Office of Solid Waste. We have the field staff and we have the call center staff, and each plays their role in making sure that garbage gets collected, recycling gets picked up, yard waste, and so on. So I'm going to address the field staff side, and then Lois is going to address the call center side. So we have 3 solid waste specialists, or we also call them inspectors, and they cover all 120 square miles of the city of Port St. Lucie. That's a pretty daunting task for just 3 guys, but they have a system that's set up. They get a Google Doc every day from FCC. That document is generated by the violations of the solid waste ordinance that they see when they're on the road. They see a pile that exceeds a certain size, they'll tag that pile, they'll enter that address into a Google Doc, and then we see that information the next day. And so these inspectors go out and they actually actively address all these violations on a real-time basis. So they stay very busy, and they stay busy Monday through Friday. And then, of course, we have call-in complaints, or we have call-ins from other sources, and they go and address those as well. So these guys are busy all day long. Basically, the out-of-compliance piles, those types of things are, and we'll talk about that more later, but those are things that are just out of spec, whether it's just a little bit or a great deal. It could be bulk, it could be yard waste, it could be well, recycling not so much, but mostly bulk piles and yard waste are the major things these guys address. And so, again, I'll talk more on that later, but I want to hand it over to Lois, and she can talk more about the call center staff.
Our call center is staffed by 3 full-time solid waste call takers, and we get every call that has anything to do with solid waste. There is now a direct line to our call center, which we're really excited about, and that's through the 1PSL phone number, which we'll show you a slide of towards the end. And there's a easy way to get to us by just pressing 5 after you dial that number, and you get directly connected to the Office of Solid Waste. So there are 3 full-time call takers. We actually have an FCC liaison who is also on the phones and helps us and has her direct line to the FCC office in Fort Pierce. There's an office manager. And we address all kinds of inquiries every day. There's, unfortunately, there are misses occasionally. There are questions about yard waste, questions about bulk day, and they all come in through that office, and at least you can reach a live person, which I think is really wonderful. And we work very closely with the specialists in the field all day long, checking in with them to see what they've found from anything we send out to them, questions from homeowners, illegal dumping, all kinds of things that come in during the day. So it's a really close working team with the field staff and the call center.
And Lois will get high priority calls that come in from other locations, and those guys address those high priority calls almost immediately. So.
The curbside service schedule shows that all services are provided on the same scheduled pickup day. So whether it's your bulk day, your yard waste, your recycle, or your garbage, it's all handled on the same day of the week. The weekly services are your garbage, your recycling, your yard waste, and then new to the city as of 1 year ago is monthly services for bulk. And that bulk day will be the same day as your other services, just that's once a month for your bulk.
Okay, curbside solid waste service. So our garbage is picked up through an automated process, just like our recycling has always been. So now we have automated garbage. They're called ASLs, or automated side loaders. So these are the trucks that you predominantly see on the road day in, day out. The important thing about using a vehicle like that is that all your garbage bags, all your trash has to be inside that can. It can't be sitting on the ground next to it. It can't be on the lid, because they're going to pull up, they're going to grapple that can, and they're going to dump it, and then they're going to move on to the next house. They're not going to get out of their truck to pick up anything. So it's really important that everything is in those cans, when they show up, in front of your house. The put-out time, like we discussed outside, is that you want to have everything out there by 7 a.m. I put my stuff out the night before, but you could live in an area where there's critters, and if you have issues with critters at night and they're getting into your garbage can, then maybe first thing in the morning is the better way to go. But you definitely want to have those cans out early, because my pickup is right around 7:45 in the morning, so it's pretty early for me, which is great. But you really want to have that can out there, because if you forget and they go by your house, you're probably not going to get your garbage picked up. I mean, you can call Lois here and beg, but probably not. You're going to be upset at yourself, because now you're going to sit there and look at a garbage can that's probably half full, at least.
And if you saw the demonstration, which I think everyone here in the room did, we talked about the hazardous waste and what it can do to FCC's trucks. It can start a fire. So it's so important that the items that are shown quickly there on this slide, but it's also posted on the city website. So anytime you're not sure if something should go into the truck or not, please call us. You can ask, you can look on the website. There's really good information on there about what should and should not be put into the trucks. And when you do have something that you know for sure FCC will not pick up, you always have the option of the St. Lucie County landfill up on Glades Cutoff Road. And then coming up soon for the fall collection day on October 21st at the Public Works Complex, there's what we call Hazardous Waste Collection Day. This is one of the 2 so far. We may do more, but right now we're doing 2 hazardous waste collection days. And you can just show up there with your hazardous waste in your car or your truck. You get in line and you go through the line and you can dump it properly. FCC provides roll-off cans for the city for this day, and everything goes into a particular can, and that way it gets disposed of properly, and there's no problems with something causing a fire or going into the soil when it shouldn't. So that's a really important day. And again, it's October 21st from 8 to noon at the Thornhill Complex. And that's also on the city's website if you don't have a way to write it down.
And just be advised, to piggyback onto that, it's very popular. It's like the tree giveaway. I mean, there's a line of cars. You know, we got a short window to get rid of stuff, so have everything prepared to go and expect to sit in line for a little while. They move quickly. You know, they'll take your stuff out of your car. You don't have to get out of your vehicle. They'll, you know, pop the hatch or whatever. They'll take it out, but there will be a line, so just be prepared for that.
The next slide is about cart placement, which may seem like a very simple thing, but it's really important now that we've gone automated. The arms on the truck come out hard and fast, and we don't want to break anything. FCC doesn't want to knock your mailbox over. So we ask that you put 3 feet between not only just the cans, and the picture showing the driveway with the 2 carts is a perfect example of how your cans should be placed. They should also be facing properly. If you put your recycle can out backwards, when the truck lifts it into the air, it's going to cause a mess on the ground. And we get a lot of people calling in and saying, you know, FCC left a mess. Well, how was your cart facing? Oh, I don't know. I think it was right. And when we look, FCC has cameras on all their trucks. Isn't that wonderful? So it's very easy for us to look and see what really happened. And oftentimes, sure enough, when the resident calls in and says you left a mess, it was because the can was backwards. That lid flips back instead of forward into the truck. The recycle falls out all over the ground. So this is a really important slide to me. You know, if you see your neighbors doing it wrong, I've told my neighbors they're doing it wrong. So if you see someone, then you know it's too close to something or it's backwards, just let them know. It's really important for proper service, for the cans to be facing the proper way with the lids closed.
And you can just think of this, handle and house. The handle faces the house. You push it out there, the handle faces the house, you're good to go. So, one of my favorite subjects that makes me cringe, recycling. Back during the great garbage debacle of 2022, which we are survivors of that, I might add. I don't know how we're still here, but we survived that. There was a decision to put garbage in the recycling bin because the thinking was that since they needed garbage to get picked up quick and there wasn't enough trucks, why if we put garbage in the recycling bins, why these trucks could pick up the garbage in the recycling bins and it would all get cleaned up. Well, that did not happen. What happened was it created some really bad habits and people are putting garbage in the recycling bins, and we haven't broke that habit yet. So garbage does not go in recycling bins, okay? Recyclables do. And so this slide is great. In your bag that you have, we have basically 3 flyers that emulate this particular slide and then others. If you recycle nothing else, these are the things you want to recycle right here. These are your basics. Stick to the basics. Glass. Okay, rinse out the bottle and stick the glass in your recycling bin. I would tell you that you can throw the caps in there, but a lot of the caps have rubber under the inside to form a seal between the cap and the bottle. That becomes an issue, so just throw that out. Paper. cartons, no smalls, not little pieces of paper, but sheets of paper, newspapers. You can throw magazines, things like that in there. Plastics. Who here looks at the number on the recyclable and sees if it's a number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever? So, I mean, I look at them too. But in reality, if this city wants to be gold when it comes to recycling, 1s and 2s. 1s and 2s, that's it. 5s, maybe. Some 5s are like yogurt, tub butter, margarine. Okay, those are 5s. But so are baby diapers and plastic straws and indoor-outdoor carpeting. So you don't throw those in your recycling bin. So that's why 5 gets a little bit dicey. If you stick to 1s and 2s, you're not going to have any problem. What you ate tonight was in a container that's a number 6. That you would not save, you would throw that away. Okay, that's not something we want to keep. So plastics, jugs, tubs, bottles, jars, stuff that you use in your bathroom, shampoos and stuff, just take the pump off. Okay, those pumps can have a variety of different plastics in it. It can have high density polyethylene, it can have polypropylene, it can have a bunch of different types of plastics, some of which are not recyclable here in the city. They could be in other parts of the country, but not here. They don't go in our recycling stream. So you just throw the pumps out and you put the jugs in there. Be sure you clean them out. For those of you who want to labor to clean out a peanut butter jar, have at it. I throw them away because it takes unbelievable amounts of water just to clean them out. And then that thing's got to soak overnight, right? And all you get is a lighter shade of peanut butter. I'm just going to tell you in the morning. Not worth it. Just get rid of the thing. So, and metal, of course, is just, basically aluminum cans, cans you might buy, soup, things of that nature. That's pretty straightforward. Just rinse them out, and throw them in the recycling bin. And the number one thing is don't bag your recyclables. Don't think that you're going to, doing somebody a favor by bagging them all up so they're nice and neat, because plastics, high density polyethylene, we don't recycle that. Some places do, we do not. So don't put any plastic sheeting or any bags in there. It'll just ruin the load. So many things, but I'll just leave it at that right now.
And we'll move on to curbside bulk service. So what is bulk? It's your mattresses, furniture, appliances, larger toys, items that would not fit into your cart. And that's for your bulk day. The limit is 2 cubic yards each month. And we do ask that the bulk also be moved 3 feet away from any obstructions, including your other carts, just to make it easier for the FCC truck to get that serviced and off the ground for you. No loose debris should be put out on bulk day. And if you have some construction debris that you're putting out, the best thing is to make sure it's either neatly stacked or maybe in a box. If you're cutting up drywall and putting it curbside for bulk day, you don't want it all to be cut up and loose out there. It would be better to box it, and that way they can pick the box up and put it right in the truck. So things like that can be placed into a box for ease of service.
And one thing on the bulk also, you might see your neighbors, you might drive through a neighborhood or go into some friend's house, and you'll see curbside this big green bag. It's about that big, okay? I can talk, I don't even need this. A big bag about this big, about that wide. It's called a bagster. It's a product of waste management. You can buy them at Home Depot for $29.95. That's what it costs you, and you can put a lot of stuff in it. It's very durable. You can put porcelain tile in it, and it's not going to rip it, all kinds of stuff. The thing of it is that you have to call the number on the package that's for recovery, because FCC will not pick that up. It's a waste management product. Waste management comes out and picks that bagster up. So we've had a lot of those sitting around. We've had our code staff having to address that. We've had our solid waste staff having to address that. And we're telling residents, hey, FCC is not going to touch that. You need to give Waste Management a call and have them pick it up. So if you ever see that, or if you're thinking about buying one of those, just remember, you got to call the number on the package to have that collected, because FCC will not pick that up. So when to place bulk curbside. I don't think I did that one yet. Yeah. Sorry. So no problem. I did speak about this a little earlier. You know, the night before would be best, no later than 7 a.m. And if you put bulk curbside on your non-scheduled day or week, you see that in red right there? It says solid waste code violation. That means you'll probably get a courtesy warning on your door from a code officer or a solid waste officer, and they'll say, your bulk's out on the wrong day. And they might write the day down, but you know they're expecting you to know that, and clearly you didn't know that because it's out on the wrong day. So they'll give you a chance to put it back up to your house, give you 24 hours. They'll come back, and if it's still there, they will issue you a citation. So the city doesn't play anymore with giant piles of stuff curbside. We're trying to get this city to look nice. It looked like heck during the great garbage debacle of 2022. So we're trying to get as far away from that as possible within reason, without being real punitive. But this is something that we're really strict on. Is we got to have everything curbside at the right time.
And this is a fabulous picture of proper staging of bulk debris.
I took this picture, by the way.
Michael's a great photographer, actually. So everything is 3 feet apart. If you notice, the mailbox is 3 feet from the bulk, which is 3 feet from the solid waste can, and that's about as good as it gets for your bulk service day. This one is absolutely perfect. And I know we talked about the 3 feet before, but it is really important. And that is a good example of 2 cubic yards of bulk. That love seat is perfectly sized for bulk day.
And I did not stage that picture. That is exactly how it was.
That's assuming that the bulk is the same day as your garbage.
So now it is.
Correct, yes.
Yes. Yeah.
And it will
Your
be.
bulk day is going to be,
the
let's say
same.
your garbage day is today, okay? If this happened to be, what's today? Today's Wednesday, the 4th Wednesday of the month. If that was your bulk day, like it was mine, my garbage would be out, my recycling would be out, my yard waste would be out, and my bulk would be out, all on the same day. And it all would get picked up on that day.
Because I thought ours in my neighborhood was Wednesday, bulk day.
Well, it's only once a month.
It's once a month. We can find that out for you afterwards. We can look that up for you.
Okay,
Okay?
yes.
Garbage will pick up every Wednesday for your area, but only once a month will they pick up bulk.
Mine gets picked up on Friday.
Oh, okay, then Friday.
That's what I'm saying, my days don't come the same day.
They should, so they'll get with you after.
Yeah, we'll get with
we'll
you
go
after,
over it
and we'll get
for you.
that all
We'll
ironed
check
out
it.
for you.
Sure,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yard waste. Okay, this is another big thing that's changed in the city. There was a time where you could cut an entire tree down, put it curbside, and somehow or another Waste Pro would pick that up, okay? They realized that that was not very profitable, and it doesn't look great either when you see it an entire frontage, 200 feet of property with a mound of yard debris and branches that's 8-10 feet high. So we stopped doing that. We can only put out now 4 cubic yards, which is basically four wash machines long, if you want to stack 4 wash machines side by side, 4 cubic yards. And a cube is 3 feet by 3 feet by 3 feet. So imagine 4 of those. Okay, that's how much you can put out every single week. And that's a fair amount of stuff. I mean, if you're just trimming like I do, I don't generate even a cubic yard. So 4 is actually a lot. But the thing of it is with that comes certain size restrictions. 4 foot in length is the longest you can put out. 6 inches in diameter is the largest diameter you can put out, with the exception of palm fronds. They fall. They're very flexible. When they get thrown in the rear loader, they bend easily. So there's not that restriction on palm fronds. And loose debris like clippings and mulch and pine needles and things of that nature, leaves, put that in a paper bag preferably. Everybody's still kind of hooked on the plastic bag, so we're giving everybody a pass on the plastic, but we're trying to promote the paper, because what happens is when they shred this stuff, they can take a bag of that clippings and just throw it in the shredder, shreds right away. But if they got a plastic bag, now they got to empty all those branches out. And branches don't empty out very well out of a plastic bag. They get all hung up in there and stuff, and it just delays the process of trying to empty that into a shredder. So we're trying to promote the paper bag. 50 pounds when filled, it shouldn't weigh any more than that, nor should any piece that you put curbside, like a log, it should weigh something. Now, I'm not saying you got to bring a scale out there, but you got to kind of judge what 50 pounds is. But it's heavy. 50 pounds is it's like a bag of mortar. If you've ever been you've been to a hardware store, a bag of mortar is like 45 pounds. It's heavy, but nothing more than 50 pounds that you can put curbside. And again, 3 foot away from every other obstruction, just to keep that away from your garbage can, your recycling can, because your yard waste is going to be out on the same day as all those other ones. You want to keep them all separated so they can come in there and collect that without creating a problem. And if you live in an area where it's under a power line or a power or a big tree, you've got to keep that in mind as well. You don't want to stack stuff under a power line, because if they got to come in there with a grapple truck and pick that up, they're not going to be able to do that. They won't do that. So keep that in mind when you're putting out your stuff. Okay, my favorite subject right there, the drop-off center. Everybody been to the drop-off center in the city here? Okay. Well, this was born out of the great garbage debacle of 2022. People had to get rid of their stuff, and they really didn't like seeing it sitting for 3 and 4 weeks in front of their house. I'm not talking garbage, I'm talking furniture, appliances, the big stuff, okay, that was piling up. So we created this location here, which is actually our FEMA debris site. When, God forbid, we have a hurricane, that's where all our yard waste goes. Our big tree debris goes at this location. So right now we're operating this convenient drop-off center. It's located at the corner of Crosstown Parkway and Cameo Boulevard. It's a big fenced-in area, and it's kind of cat-a-corner from the ballpark for Centennial High School. You can bring bulk there. You can bring yard waste there. What's bulk? We discussed what bulk is. It's appliances, furniture, mattresses, wood, not hazardous waste, no contractor waste. Contractor waste, we're dealing with that all the time. Someone comes in there with a truck and, they got a big trailer and all kinds of yard waste and stuff, and they're sitting in there. There might be 4 guys in the truck, and we say, is this coming from your home? It is, and they're all wearing landscaper shirts, So this happens, and they've gotten very clever now. They're able to disguise themselves very effectively and come in there and get rid of yard waste, and it's hard to catch that all the time. So we had to come up with some restrictions. Now the trailers can't be, huge. They can only be 8 feet in length. We get people in there with box trucks. 26-foot box truck filled with bulk. They're emptying out their storage garage or their house, and they bring that there. That can't be dropped off there. 10-foot is the maximum. Now, if you came in with a bigger truck, like a 20-footer, maybe I don't know what their sizes are, 15-foot, but you only had a mattress in the back of the truck and maybe a dresser, we let you in because you didn't fill it up. You only had a couple of things, and maybe that's the only size truck you could rent. So we would let you in for that. But if you filled up a big truck and brought it in there, we would send you out and suggest the landfill up in St. Lucie County. So same thing goes with household garbage. So a lot of people, either they missed their garbage day, they claim they can't put all their garbage in one big container, so they have excess garbage, and so they smuggle it in cleverly into the convenience center. So we have household garbage that shows up there. They'll close us down for that. The DEP, Department of Environmental Protection, will shut us down if they find garbage in there. So thank God they've not seen it, but it's been there. Paint is not allowed there for the obvious reasons. You should see what happens when a grapple truck grabs a hold of a 5-gallon pail of paint and other stuff, because it doesn't always see it because it's grabbing a whole bunch of stuff at once, squeezes those jaws of that grapple truck, the thing bursts, paint is just pouring out of the grapple, and he's swinging it over to the front to his truck to drop it in there, and the sides of their trucks, if you ever seen them out there, there is paint running down the sides, dry now, of all their trucks from paint that they've grappled out of there. We've collected well over we have 300 gallons of paint right now sitting at that site that I have to come up with a clever way of getting rid of. All colors. And you're welcome to all of it. All of it.
Please,
Yeah.
yes, please.
Yeah. But so we get that smuggled in all the time. The most clever way was somebody who put it in a dryer that they brought over to dump off. Yeah, a couple of gallons of paint in a dryer. So tires get smuggled in all the time. I think we've removed a couple hundred tires from there. I don't know how we don't see them, but they're buried under stuff, you know, and you look and you go, okay, looks good. And then they get in and they wash it. And we only had one person working there for a while. So while he's checking in cars, they're throwing in paint and tires and God knows what they're dumping in there. So this is why we got two people working there now all the time. One is checking and one is scanning in their driver's license. So that's working out really well. But Cameo is a great place. We tell people, listen, if you keep bringing this stuff, it could get shut down. And it's like, oh no. And it's like, because people have grown to like that place because you got one bulk day a month. If you got some stuff you want to get rid of on some other day that ain't your bulk day, you can just bring it up there. You got some yard waste you don't want to, sit, have laying at your curbside for a couple, 3 days, just bring it up there. So it is very convenient, hence the name. But there are restrictions and there are rules, and people must follow them. So also on the yard waste, no fruits, no veggies, no avocados, none of that kind of stuff, mangoes, because it rots. When it rots, it brings in vermin. So again, we can't have any of that stuff there. So, all right.
Okay, if you can't wait and you need your service quickly, this would be, let's say you're cutting down a tree, so you know ahead of time you're going to have more than the 4 cubic yards that are allowed. You have options. Number one is you can bring them to the convenient drop-off center, which Michael just told you everything about, and it really is a great place. If you're stuck and you don't want to get cited or have a problem, just bring it over to Cameo. You can also call our line, the 1PSL line, and press the number 5 to go right to our office. You can request a free estimate, no obligation, and that would be from FCC. Their rate is $18.50 per cubic yard, and they give you the pricing within 48 hours and then removal within 72 hours of payment. So you don't have to use FCC. Your third option would be to call any debris removal company you choose, get your bid from them if you like it. They can come out and take that away for you.
Hunks removing junk comes to mind.
College hunks.
Yeah, college hunks removing junk.
Yes. Big question is, what is my service day? So you can look that up anytime on the computer. Just go to cityofpsl.com. You can click on the solid waste icon, which is down at the bottom of the front page. Plug in your address, the map comes up. You plug in your address and it will tell you what your weekly service and your bulk days are. And as we said, they're always on the same pickup day. The only time that would change is when there's a holiday, which we'll go over on the next slide. But as you can see, they're 4th of July, Thanksgiving, and Christmas. And then each day bumps one day. So if you were Friday, you'd bump to Saturday. But it's only 3 times a year, and that's the next slide. So I won't go into a lot of detail about that.
And so that's our holiday schedule for FCC, the 4th of July, Thanksgiving Day, and Christmas. So Thanksgiving Day is usually a Thursday, I think?
Yes.
So if you get picked up on Thursday, you get bumped to Friday. That Friday pickup, whoever they are, gets bumped to Saturday, and that's how it works. The city drop-off, or the convenient drop-off center, they're closed on city holidays. We were open for a while, but now we're closing them because, frankly, the guys need a break. They've been standing out there for 10 and a half hours during this unbelievably hot summer. And, it's like, they have no air. They sit in their car and turn their air conditioning on. It's brutal out there, and so we want to give these guys a break as well. I mean, 5 days a week going through what they go through out there is quite a bit. So we're closed on the holidays. Yeah. What else do we got here? Questions?
Okay, we're winding down, but the convenience center is Michael's favorite subject, and this slide is mine. The call center is something that I'm really, really proud of. Now you can get directly to the Office of Solid Waste, which is wonderful. We have a new director of solid waste who's fabulous, and we separated it so that all you have to do is press the number 5 now, and you go right to our office. It's fully staffed, as we explained in the very beginning. And Monday through Friday from 8 to 5, we are more than happy to help you with anything you need. I'm so proud of this call center. I just absolutely love it. You can use the 1PSL app also, and it will be our team that calls you back from the Office of Solid Waste if it's garbage related at all. And one thing I would like to mention while I'm on this slide is if something does go wrong with your service, which of course we hope it doesn't, but if you are missed, please let us know right away. As I mentioned before, FCC has cameras. We can check and see what happened that caused the problem with your service. Sometimes it's about a route manager checking that route, and I have, all the route managers on speed dial with FCC, so we can solve a problem. Maybe, you're being missed for a reason, the truck is turning too soon, but please, the sooner you let us know, the more we can help you. And that's what we're there for, and we love to do that.
And, go ahead.
That's my last slide. So the next slide is Michael's, and it's the final slide, but I'd like to make a special announcement before Michael finishes. Michael could have been a lot of places this evening because it's his birthday. Right. He chose to be here with us and support me and the team, and he does a fabulous job. So I think he's had happy birthday sung to him enough, so the round of applause was perfect.
Thank you. I got a video from my grandson saying happy birthday to me. That was everything right there. So
Really cute.
I wanted to say that also our director, Mariana Felposh, is also a student in this class, but because she is at a conference right now, she couldn't be here, but she would be in here with the rest of you, so she's missing this tonight, so she's hoping that, we break a leg and do a good job, so.
We miss you, Mariana.
Yeah, so she's doing a great job for us. We all like her. She comes from the Solid Waste Authority in West Palm, the waste to energy plant. So they really got it figured out down there, and they're doing a great job. And so she comes from that lineage. So I know she'll do great, things for the city of Port St. Lucie. So on this last slide, I just tell people if you want to zoom in with your phones, and you can just scan this, and it'll take you directly to the solid waste page, and you can store that on your home screen, and that way it'll be there. It'll look like the city's logo, and then when you click on it, it'll take you right to the solid waste page, and you can, look up any information that you are looking for as far as solid waste, whether it's your collection day or what's allowed or what isn't allowed, or any late breaking news. That's all things solid waste will be there. So it's a good QR code to have and to save, and at least to plug into your phone. So that's our presentation tonight. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
We do have some time for some questions if anyone would like to ask Michael or Lois.
We got most of the answers, so.
Yes, sir.
Just in the occurrence of a hurricane or a storm, is there exceptions made to the 4 cubic yards of tree debris and yard debris?
Great question.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that nothing that's developing out there right now finds their way here. But let's just say, for example, that we are in the cone of uncertainty, and we get a notice that comes out from the city manager's office, typically, and it states that, amongst other things, there's no cutting, no more cutting. So it's an emergency order, no more. So what is called an emergency order? I can't think of it when they issue that emergency order. State of emergency. So at that point, you're not supposed to cut, which we see that being violated all the time. But you stop cutting at that point. FCC still picks up the garbage, the recycling, the yard waste that you have out. But anything new that's green, we're going to look at that, very closely, because if it's green, it means you just probably cut that stuff, and we're not going to pick it up. We're going to probably very politely tell you to put it in your garage, secure it. We've had people that cut huge amounts of debris or yard waste, well, entire trees, to be honest, and we had them put it in their garage. We actually helped them put it in their garage. So there is no cutting once we get that emergency declaration.
Technically, if we are anywhere in the cone for the National Hurricane Center, you should stop cutting.
Yes.
Altogether.
And if we do get a hurricane and a lot of debris falls from that, Okay, FEMA will step in, and then there's a whole different protocol. Yard waste gets picked up by them first. FCC picks up garbage, recycling. Okay, they will be picking up the yard debris. You'll need to have it curbside because they're going to only do a pass one time. So, you know, it's important to have whatever got blown down, that's yard waste, separate and away from all your garbage and other stuff. Keeping the distance in mind, because they're going to come in there with big grapple trucks, 80-yard grapple trucks, and they're going to pick up all that yard debris. So they'll make a pass through your neighborhood, and that's it. Once they're done and out, you know, they're going to be checked and followed. They're cleared out of a particular zone, and so then the next following week, anything else that's there that's going to be curbside will end up becoming something that FCC will have to collect. But yeah, anything that's a windfall from a storm, FEMA, if they are activated and the emergency ELC is activated, then FEMA will step in, and their contractors will come in and pick up all that yard waste.
Awesome. Thank you for the response. I did see a couple other hand raises here in the back. I'll start with you, sir. You had one.
Hi. I moved into Port St. Lucie during the great garbage debacle of 22.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Was a really nice welcome.
Welcome, yeah.
That was our welcome.
And I visited the Cameo place about 24 times with a car full of boxes. And the first time I went there, they told me that they're not charging. Do they charge you to bring bulk garbage there?
Bulk debris, not
Debris.
garbage. We hear garbage, we get a little bit nervous because garbage is household stuff. It's organics. It's stuff that will decay. If you mean garbage like just bulk stuff, you know, yes, you can bring it. No, we don't charge.
No charge, no.
Well, like I said, when I was there during that, they had garbage and recycling and everything like that set up. And I was just wondering about household paint. If the can is empty and dried out, what would that be considered? Would that be considered recycling or?
No, that's
bulk?
garbage.
Garbage?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, you could throw that in your garbage can at home, or you could bring it to Cameo. If you've got paint that's dried out hard, you can throw that in your garbage can or take it to Cameo. But you can't bring anything liquid, wet paint included.
Great question. Another question here in the back.
Thank you. What does an ordinary citizen do when you see obvious violation of the solid waste disposal arrangement? In other words,
You mean a neighbor that's creating a
neighbor.
violation?
What do you do?
So you can call that 1 PSL line, and we'll take your information. We document the complaint, and we'll send someone out to check on it. And first, we try to do education. So, you know, one of our field team members will go out, educate the resident. If it continues, they'll be issued a citation, which starts to charge them according to what they have out and what the violation is. But you can always call and let us know, and we look into it for you.
First part of your answer has my problem in that you're required to provide your information.
You are.
Yes.
That's the governor's law, yes.
And I personally have a difficulty with that because you're exposing yourself to things you'd rather not be exposed to.
I completely understand. Alex is going to take this one because it involves the legalities of the law Governor DeSantis passed.
Yes, so we're coming up next, Neighborhood Services Department, and we house the Code Compliance Division, which manages all the code violations and ordinances of the city, and solid waste is just one of those, right? But back in the day, a few years ago, we were able to allow citizens to submit complaints anonymously. The governor, Ron DeSantis, passed a law saying that that was no longer allowed, and so there is nothing we can do about it. Our city council has lobbied, because we do have lobbyists that help express the city's positions on certain things. We know about the implications of having your home and property threatened and so forth, but unfortunately, there's nothing we can do about that until the law is revoked or changed. That's the law that we have in place right now.
Yeah. So,
It's a Florida law. Yeah.
hi, my name's
It's a state law.
Wesley Armstrong. I'm the code compliance manager. Just so to speak on that, anywhere in the state of Florida. So Senate Bill 60 is what outlines the law. It was signed into effect July 1st, 2021. So the law states that if you lodge a complaint that results in a code inspection and potential violations on your property, it's the municipality's requirement per that law to obtain anyone's name and address. And that has to be put in the case and subject to all public records requests. So anywhere you go in the state of Florida. Correct.
Yeah, well, they would have to request it. Yeah.
Yeah, they would have to request it.
We are very much against it.
So
but-
to speak on that, so to speak on that, obviously the concern is now your name and address are subject to the complainant. So the person you're complaining on can look at who've lodged that complaint. So we've actually, myself personally, we've met with City Council regarding this issue. So we're looking at one of three avenues. The first, the Florida Association of Code Enforcement is now backing an amendment to that law, which would require up to 1 year the municipality holds that information from being subject to public records law. So we would be required to obtain that information, however, it be held for 1 year. So we don't release that information until after that. So meaning there's a cool down period. That hasn't, they're shopping that now with the state legislature. So we're not sure if that goes through. The second would be the city create an ordinance basically stipulating that all ordinance violations are potential life safety in nature, and that's a potential workaround, but that's with the legal department currently, and they're trying to shop that. The third would be the understanding of the law and the legislature who brought that law into effect created a workaround that there's, again, a life safety threat to it. So there's a potential workaround where it's in the legal department right now that we might be able to take those complaints based on a certain verbiage. However, that's with the legal department. So we have to operate the way we're currently operating right now, which is if you submit a complaint to either my department or the Office of Solid Waste, you will be required to provide that information.
And I don't wanna belabor this too much because we could talk, and we have been talking about this for years now. We could talk about it for a really long time. Basically, what Wesley was saying is that we are trying every single avenue that we can, along with other municipalities across the state, with lobbyists, with elected officials, to do our best to try and figure out a way to reverse this course. But right now, our hands are tied. And so, I mean, advocacy is a thing. And as residents, as ambassadors of the city, if you really feel that strongly about it, the place to contact and to call and to complain about this is the governor's office, right? That's where, who has the power to do anything about that. But we are working, right now we don't have any updates, but.
Well, yeah, definitely a great conversation. I think that, we can certainly have, and it sounds like it is something that we just have to get some guidance on from the state side. And I do want to go ahead and ask a question. We had a question here in the back, so let's go ahead and just take two more questions for solid waste, so that we can go ahead and proceed with the next presentation.
Thank you. Yeah, my question is, I was here during the great garbage debacle, whatever it's called. And is the city considering or giving residents a choice to pay more for twice per week pickup? Or are we stuck with this weekly pickup only? That's one of my questions.
Yes, that has come up. I believe there going to be further discussions on that. There might even be a referendum. They're considering a referendum on that, which means you will have the opportunity to vote on that at some point, whether you want to do that or not. I will tell you that there are 50 cities in the state of Florida, many of them larger than our city, that have once a week garbage pickup. The benefits of once a week are reduced costs, because if we were to go to twice a week, okay, that means FCC buys more trucks. Okay, well, they make all kinds of money, so they can buy more trucks. Well, here's another thing. The schedule that you just got used to, okay, is going to be upended, and they're going to have to reroute the whole city based on now a Saturday, because it's going to require a Saturday collection. So these guys who just finally have a 5-day work week and they can go home to their families and they can relax are now going to be facing working a Saturday. That's not going to go over well. And with so many opportunities now in the city to work in other areas like, you know, FedEx and Amazon, these drivers are going to just defect and they're going to go someplace else where they don't have to do that. We ended up getting a lot of our Waste Pro drivers over in FCC, and they're loving life right now because they're working 5 days a week. They get to spend time with the family, the kids. We go to 6 days a week. That's going to change everything for them. It's going to change everything for our schedule. Your pickup day isn't going to be the day it is now. It's going to be something different. And the cost, I don't know what it's going to be, but it's going to be significant to get. Yeah, a lot more.
So what about having a plan B where you have, you know, like you have the bulk convenient drop off where you can have it for garbage as well? Because, you know, it's unsanitary. I mean, some people, if you have older person living at home or you have babies, you have diapers, I mean, it's not, I understand all the other things that you're saying, but it's really very difficult when you have to deal with the stench, you know, or the flies, and you know. So what about having something like that, a drop-off area sometimes when you just have to get it out of your house?
Well, my plan B suggestion would be to get a second garbage can. Okay, that's yeah, but you got 2 cans now. You got if you got that much garbage that one can won't do, then a second can will help to accommodate that. Okay, yeah. Twice a week garbage is something that's going away, and once a week garbage is the new paradigm. It's important that you understand the significance of recycling, because what you do is you divert that stuff that you're putting in your garbage can into a recycling bin, thus creating more room in your garbage can for actual garbage. And something that I do at home, you may not have a second refrigerator. I got one in the garage for soda, beer, and all that kind of stuff. My freezer is where I don't have a whole lot in there. So what I'll do is if I'm cutting up a chicken or I'm filleting a fish or whatever I'm doing, and I got all leftover scraps, I throw it in the freezer and I freeze it. Okay? Then I take it out on the night before, throw it in the can, and then there's no stink. Okay? That's what I do. But you know, and feel free to do that if you'd like. But it's a good idea. It works. But it's a valid point. It's been brought up obviously enough to possibly have a referendum on the matter. So. But yeah, that's kind of where we are with that.
Some last question. I'm going to go ahead and turn over to Manuel.
Can we then, if we don't have to give the names for the neighbors that are having issues, maybe ask for a training plan around my neighborhood or something? Because maybe I don't want to call and say, hey, we have a problem here, here, here. But if we have 3, 4, 5 neighbors in my neighborhood that are creating an issue, I'm just asking to Solid Waste to do, go around my neighborhood and educational program or something like that. Is there any option to do that?
The wording of the law itself says that we cannot do anything that would initiate a code complaint or code investigation based off of any complaint. So because people will say that, so I work code compliance, I'm the manager for code compliance, so we deal with every violation in the city, including solid waste violations. So the issue with that is if that call that you give to me leads to a code case, because we'll get all the time, well, if you just drive down the street, I'm not going to give you the address, you just drive down the street, but that initiates a code investigation. And if I even initiate a code investigation without your name or address, I violate the law.
We don't like this law either, trust me.
We can talk about it a little bit more maybe after the code compliance presentation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My question is, what happens if the complaint?
Is it related to this code
Yes.
Wait until they present, and then we can talk about it a little bit more after.
Are we good on garbage?
Everyone good on garbage? All right, yes. Awesome work, thanks guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Alex, Bolivar, and Wes, for helping out.
Sure, thanks, Wes. Sure.
Thank you. Our
Thank you.
distant cousin.
Yes. All right, so we are down to the wire here with our final presentation for you all this evening. Next, we have the Neighborhood Services Department, which I'm a little biased because I do work for the Neighborhood Services Department, but we are one of the best departments in the city of Port St. Lucie, in my opinion.
Most exciting, that's for sure.
Most exciting, absolutely, yes. And you'll hear about it a little bit more, but the Neighborhood Services Department actually is the department that hosts City University. So we are the ones that set up the every week. Oh, thank you all. Of course, yes. So we do set up the program every week, as well as the tours and the catering and all that good good stuff. So, but anyways, to give you a little bit of an overview on the department, regarding the mission statement of the department, the mission of the Neighborhood Services Department is to improve neighborhood appearance, sustainability, and vibrancy through citizen education, engagement, and action. So here to kick us off for the Neighborhood Services Department, we have our Deputy Director, Alex Tasca. Welcome, Alex. You're welcome.
So this is going to be a little bit of a group effort. Hi, my name is Alex, as Bolivar said. Great to see you all. I'm a little short, so I might do this every once in a while, but to make sure I see everyone. We're actually going to do a 3-part presentation. I'm going to try and be as quick as possible because I want to respect everyone's time, and I know you have a lot of questions about code compliance, which is the most exciting part. But our director couldn't be here this evening. He sends his regards. He likes to be here, but he had a family emergency this evening. Neighborhood Services is a unique department. Not every municipality has it. So I like to say sometimes when a municipality has a neighborhood services department, it's kind of a luxury. And a lot of municipalities in Florida started to create these departments in the early 2000s. And during the Great Recession, a lot of these departments went away. They were one of the first ones to get cut. But the city of Port St. Lucie developed this department about 7, 8 years ago. And what they did is they brought together community programs and code compliance. So community programs is kind of an umbrella division where we manage federal and state grant funding that comes in for community development projects and housing projects. And then we also work closely with our code compliance peers to ensure that we have really, really nice neighborhoods, right? And from that, we developed a program called NICE, of which Bolivar is the manager of. And NICE stands for Neighborhood Improvement and Community Engagement. Yes. So having said that, our work is very, very closely linked to the strategic plan that the City Council developed because we are a very unique creation of the City Council, including the NICE program, and we are actually a whole goal under the strategic plan. I don't know if you remember, but during the first session, the city manager and Kate Parmalee, our strategic initiatives director, spoke about the strategic plan. And so goal 2 of the strategic plan is called Vibrant Neighborhoods. A decade ago when the strategic plan was developed, the city council thought that it was that important to make sure that we have vibrant, good-looking, great neighborhoods, and that's kind of where neighborhood services came from. There's a lot of information on all of these slides. I'm not going to go into detail about everything. You'll get a copy of the presentation and you can look through it and read it and click on all the links. I'm just going to kind of skim so that we can go quickly. This is our structure. Like I said, we've got community programs and code compliance. I'm over the community program side, and Wesley works with code on the other side. This is our community programs division. We are small but mighty. Bolivar is not in this picture because he has a whole separate section called the NICE program, which he'll get into later. Our primary function is that we manage these 3 recurring, continuously funded large-scale grants, SHIP, the State Housing Initiatives Partnership, and the federal CDBG program, Community Development Block Grant. We also have another program called NSP, Neighborhood Stabilization Program, and these are really large-scale, very complex grant programs that we go through yearly, annual planning, and we do different things with them. We, for example, will build sidewalks or dedicate some of the funding to individual assistance grants. We, right now, we currently run what we call a repair and rehabilitation program for homeowners, where they can get a grant to help rehabilitate their home or make necessary life safety improvements if they are low income and cannot afford it. It's a very popular program, and there's a big waiting list, and we only open the waiting list once every few years. That's how much the program is in demand, because we have a very unique feature in the city of home ownership rates. I don't know if you know, can anybody take a guess what the home ownership rate, the percentage is in the entire city of Port St. Lucie? 50%, 60%?
85 right here. Oh.
Yeah. I mean, you could, but then we'll get to 211 in a minute, but then it will go nowhere. They don't have any system to go. Trust me, we are working harder than you think to try and find a way around this, because it affects our job too, right? Yeah. It won't go anywhere. I'll explain what 211 is in a minute, but where was I? Oh, the repair and rehab program, yes. Oh, home ownership rates.
60% here. I heard
60,
85.
yeah, I heard 85. We're at about almost 80% right now, which is unheard of, right? Unheard of. We are probably the city in the entire United States that has that high a home ownership rate. We were at 75, 76 a few years ago, 78 now, 79. That means the percentage of people that own their home and live in their home homesteaded as opposed to renting. And so we have a high demand as people start to grow older and get on a fixed income, helping them make these home repairs. And this grant comes from the state. So it's very limited, though we do our best to try and get as many people served as possible. This is just a little recap. Our 4 or 5 people manage millions of dollars in grant funding. We also are the section of the department that receives grant funding on a one-time basis during a state of emergency or something like COVID. We got $8.5 million just in 1 year from that. So we do assist the city manager's department also in managing grants and advocacy across the city. We are upping our game a lot in grants because of our infrastructure needs, right? So we have an interdepartmental team that works to try and get as many grants as possible. And every year we're surpassing our goals and we're getting more and more grant funding, not just this recurring grant funding that you see here. But a lot of people say to me, well, why can't you reopen the waiting list, or why can't you do more projects? Because different grants have different cycles. So this is just kind of to give you an idea of how we get different grants at different times of the year. And there's a whole planning of rules and regulations that each agency has behind the different grant programs that we have to follow. So even though we receive the money, we can't necessarily get it out of the door quickly because we have to follow all the rules and regulations, stay in compliance so that we can continue to get those grants every year thereafter. We have been receiving some of these grants for over 3 decades, and the reason is because we manage them properly and we stay in compliance. Another thing I wanted to point out is the National Community Survey that the city does. It's really good information that comes from residents, And something that's been bubbling up to the top over the last few years is affordability. We reached high home ownership rates because we were considered very affordable. Now that's not so much the case anymore, because of your taxes and all of that. So we are constantly researching and looking at what we can do to address the affordability issues. Each slide here after will give you a little bit of information about all the different grants. I'm not going to go into it too much. This is our CDBG census tract map, because some people will say, well, why can't you do a community development block grant project in my neighborhood? And because an example of one of the rules of this program is we can only use this funding in these specific branded low and moderate income census tracts. Neighborhood stabilization program came from the Great Recession. We got money a long time ago, but it's being recycled over and over again because we get program income back after we help people and they sell their homes. And last but not least, social services, or 211, right? 211 is a national initiative, a national program. From any phone in this entire country, you can dial 211 and a volunteer will pick up. Volunteers in this area will pick up here. Volunteers in Connecticut will pick up there. And what they do is they try and refer you to any services that might be available in that area at that time. And they also try and help with mental health issues, drug addiction issues, and so forth. So please be aware of that. Here are some links that you can go to find additional resources and referral information. We don't provide any social services here at the city, but we try and keep a page up to date with the most prominent, important ones that are available in the area that we can refer people to. So if you want, you can visit that website online or call 211 to find out. But if you call 211 and ask them about a code issue, they're gonna refer you to the code entity that manages that. And again, just some important links here. St. Lucie County also has a department called Human Services, and they're kind of our counterparts, and they have a few more social service programs than we do, so feel free to call them as well and ask what they have available. And that's it in a nutshell. We're gonna now hear a little bit from Bolivar about our award-winning NICE program, and then from Wesley about the code division. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Alex. So as Alex mentioned, one of the other, I would say, extensions of the Neighborhood Services Department, and really the Community Programs Division, is our award-winning NICE program, which does stand for Neighborhood Improvement and Community Engagement. And just by a quick show of hands, has anybody in this room ever been to a NICE event or a NICE social within the city? Really? Awesome. Okay, that's a good turnout then. That's great. So for those of you that have never heard of NICE or never been to a NICE event, hopefully after today's session, you guys will come out to some of our amazing opportunities and events that we have throughout the city, because it provides you all an opportunity to meet your neighbors and meet your local residents in a fun atmosphere. So before I get into really the day-to-day operations of the NICE program, I want us to take a step back and look at really the neighborhood planning history of the city, because I think it's important to really show how we got up to this point and why the NICE program was ultimately established. But really, the neighborhood planning history started out in 2004 when the city actually hired the Urban Land Institute to study the city's rapid growth and future needs. And some of the things that they looked at were like housing needs and employment opportunities and infrastructure needs. And they also looked at leisure opportunities, like for parks and recreation amenities, as well as entertainment opportunities as well. And then after that, fast forward 10 years to 2015, that's actually when our planning and zoning department, who you just heard from tonight, they actually hired a consultant to begin the neighborhood planning process. And really what that means is at that point in time, in 2015, the city actually hired a consultant to develop what we called our neighborhood action plans, our NACs. And those are actually still available on our city website. And you could certainly still go online and take a look at those. But really, in my opinion, even though the planning process started in 2004, in 2015, that's really when it took a whole nother step above, in my opinion. And some of the things that the neighborhood action plans looked at, they focused on building identity in the neighborhoods, identifying activity centers, as well as recreation and leisure opportunities. And after those were adopted by our council in 2016, that's when our neighborhood services department was actually was created. And one of the very first things that we were tasked with was to actually implement these neighborhood action plans. And so how do we implement these neighborhood action plans? Well, we actually created the NICE program, which I told you guys what the acronym stands for. And it was established in 2017. And the program was actually funded by the city's solid waste franchise agreement, as well as St. Lucie County interlocal agreement for solid waste disposal. So, really for the more that our residents recycled, some of that revenue that was generated, actually, we used that to bring back into the neighborhoods for investment projects. And there on the bottom, I won't go into great detail on each one, but that really gives you a timeline on some of the key capital improvement projects that the NICE program funded through that recycling revenue, as well as managed as well. So one of the things, I'll skip over the neighborhood naming campaign because we'll actually get into that in the next slide. But the Woodland Trails Park, that's actually along Becker Road, for those of you that are familiar with the city. That was actually funded by the NICE program. The neighborhood entry signs, which I'm sure you all have seen throughout the city. I believe we have over 60 of them currently right now. And that was really done to help promote the nice neighborhoods, which again, I'll talk a little bit more about in detail. So that was another key capital improvement project that NICE went ahead and did. And then on the engagement side, the CE that I mentioned, we started in 2019 our neighborhood group meetings, and those are actually still being done to this day. However, we've actually kind of rebranded them into more of like neighborhood socials. And we are going to be having some later in the fall semester for you all to hopefully attend. But those are great. That's really a great opportunity for you all to hear from city staff on different topics in the city, and then also participate in some fun activities as well. So this slide here gives you a quick snapshot of the Port St. Lucie neighborhoods. So currently we have 35 neighborhoods within the city of Port St. Lucie. And I mentioned the neighborhood naming campaign, which really started off the NICE program. The reason why the NICE program actually started the neighborhood naming campaign was to really give an identity to our residents and to the city. Bethany talked a little bit about it earlier today, but the way that the city was ultimately developed with GDC, plotting the single-family lots, there wasn't a whole lot of master plan communities that were done in the city. So a lot of what you see, especially on the east side, there really wasn't an identity. It was difficult to really navigate throughout the city without knowing, what neighborhood you really live within. So the NICE program did this neighborhood naming campaign back in 2017 to, ultimately give an identity to the city and to the neighborhoods within the city. Just going back to some of the neighborhood improvement projects that were funded by NICE. The utility box wraps that you all see throughout the city, that's actually managed by the NICE program, as well as for maintenance, we work closely with our public works department. So these were just a couple of snapshots that we wanted to share for you all. These were some newer of the utility box wraps that we went ahead and did. Floresta Drive, that one was the improvement project, that complete street. We did some utility box wraps along that corridor. And then also, one of the big things that NICE really focused on was the small-scale neighborhood improvement projects. Really the low-hanging fruit, such as like the bench installation and the receptacle installation, pet waste stations. If you see those throughout the city, we've done a lot of those through the NICE program. And moving on to a little bit more of larger-scale capital projects, the decorative poles that we recently installed throughout the city. We really started this back a couple years ago along Southwest Oak Ridge Drive in the Canal Point neighborhood. And that was a pilot project that was successful, and a lot of the residents really liked the black decorative poles along that road. So what we did was, this year actually we just completed, we installed 86 decorative poles along Becker Road, Gatlin Boulevard, and Bayshore Boulevard. And the purpose of this was not only to beautify the corridors, but if you can see at the top of the pictures, we actually included the neighborhood names at the top of each decorative pole. So on top of the neighborhood entry signs that we did to promote those newly established neighborhoods, we also installed these black decorative poles to promote those neighborhoods. So looking ahead into the future, so starting in October 1st, the NICE program is actually going to go through a little bit of a slight change where we're going to really focus more on the engagement activities in the city. So some of those improvement projects that I mentioned, like the decorative poles, the pet stations, those are still going to happen within the city. However, they're going to just be managed by either Public Works or Parks and Recreation Department. And really the NICE program is going to focus more on the engagement side. And I wanted to include some of these pictures because these were done the last couple of years through NICE. The ones on the left-hand side, some of those are from our NICE socials that I mentioned. We had a couple food trucks out and invited the residents to come out and just meet the city staff and meet with the PD staff. And we also provided some food for those individuals. And then in the middle there, we had actually a family movie night back in last December, and that was also done by our team as well. So these are just some of the things that we want to continue to bring back into the neighborhoods in the future. And then some outdoor games there on the right-hand side. Those are what we did actually in the spring of 2023. So how can you attend a NICE social? These are our fall 2023 dates. I did mention that we are going to continue doing these NICE socials. And the ones that are going to be happening in the fall will be indoors because of the time change. So we are going to have a little bit of a carnival theme indoors for those socials. And there you can see the different dates and the locations as far as where they'll be occurring. But again, we will be sending out this PowerPoint later tonight. So you all can certainly put that on your calendars, hopefully. And it'll be for sure a fun time, and if you have any friends or family that you guys want to bring to there, I certainly encourage you to do so. Yes.
I see people writing vigorously the dates and stuff. Can I also suggest that if you don't follow the city on social media and you're on social media, to do that, because all of this will also be advertised on the website and social media.
Yes, definitely. Thanks. Good plug-in for sure. And how can you stay involved with the NICE program? So I went ahead and incorporated just 2 different links. One of them is for you all to receive our e-blast. So anytime we host an event or activity, if you guys sign up for those e-blasts, you will be able to receive that information to you. And then as far as if you don't know where your neighborhood you reside within, we do also have a NICE neighborhoods online interactive map for you all to plug in your address and see exactly which neighborhood you live within and the name of your neighborhood. I actually live in the Crane Landing neighborhood is the one I live in. I'm thinking of Canal Point because I talked about the decorative poles. Crane Landing is the neighborhood that I actually live in and grew up in. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn over to Wesley Armstrong to talk about our code compliance division. Thanks, guys.
Hi, everyone. I'm Wesley Armstrong. I'm the code compliance manager. I'll make this as quick as possible because we're running a little short on time. So for the division right now, we're currently at 15 field staff with another 3 coming on board at the start of the fiscal year, which is next week. So right now, what we do is we oversee all city ordinances plus nuisance abatement. So the idea behind that is we abate life safety issues, we maintain property values, and we focus on educating residents for all city ordinances to abate health, safety, and issues. Sorry. Yes, the idea that increased property values is our long-term goal. So a part of that process is our community residential home process. So there's an outline for the state that you have care facilities within residential neighborhoods. So we manage that and the licensing for that, as well as our vacant lot maintenance program. So we do have an ordinance pertaining to encroachment. So we facilitate all of that. As well as right now we're at about 15,000 cases, give or take, for this year. About a little over 10,000 of those are going to be just regular code cases on single-family residential properties that are in violation. So our staff is wildly active. We are incredibly busy, and we try to be as efficient as possible with our inspections, and as well as provide the level of service that we try and go above and beyond to educate residents on ordinances and work with them to come into compliance. We also are accredited through the American Association of Code Enforcement. We received their highest or second highest ranking they've ever given. It's a 4-star. There's no such thing as a 5-star, unfortunately. So we are trying to aim for that and work with them, as well as our staff are accredited through the Florida Association of Code Enforcement, FACE. So a quick outline of avenues of enforcement that we have. So for our regular special magistrate hearings, which are held in these chambers by an independent special magistrate, those cases are typically courtesy warning. We try and make contact to educate the resident. This is the ordinance violation. This is how you come into compliance, and work with them on a time frame. Unfortunately, some people don't listen, or we're unable to make contact. So a notice of violation is issued. We send a mail to the registered property owner. If we don't hear back from them or compliance is not achieved, the next step is a notice of hearing, which is outlined under State Statute 162. So we follow that process, which does bring them into the chambers to the special magistrate. The eventuality of that is a property lien on the property. So there's punitive damages for property violations. Other avenues we can take, we do write parking tickets for parking violations, commercial vehicle, there's parking enforcement as well, we facilitate. So plus code citations that go directly to an individual. Parking citations are done at county court on St. Lucie West at traffic court. Code citations are handled through in Fort Pierce at county court. The next step would be we have various nuisance abatement processes. One of them, there's regular nuisance abatement. We have in the past demolished homes that are dilapidated and falling down and pose a threat and a blight to the public. Our vacant lot maintenance program, like I said, deals with that encroachment, and we have an ordinance outlining that and that whole process. We are maintaining probably about 50 properties right now throughout the city where we can't reach the property owner. They may have deceased, it's in an estate, or it's in foreclosure, and the bank's slow to take care of the property. So we actually get a signed magistrate order to enter the property and abate the violation and cut the grass ourselves, so you don't live next to a house with 8 feet tall grass, causing that type of nuisance. We deal with abandoned vehicles, so we have an ordinance. You can't leave an abandoned vehicle in the city right of way. So if, let's say, you have a vacant lot across the street, someone parks a vehicle there and never moves it, we will red tag it and we will tow it through the police department to abate those violations. The most egregious violation that we find are unsecured pools. Unfortunately, they tend to occur right next to bus stops. So you have someone whose fence falls down, a kid can just walk into the backyard straight into a pool. And that's a wild concern for us. So we deal with those immediately. This is just a quick outline of regular common code violations: high grass, storm shutters on through any vacant or any home that is currently occupied when we don't have an active storm is in violation. During storm season, if your home is unoccupied, you are allowed to have the shutters on as long as you are not at the property. So snowbirds can put their shutters up, not a violation. Outside of hurricane season, however, it is a violation, and we address those as well. Things like open storage or an unmaintained fence, you see fences falling down or missing panels, things like that, we will address. Inoperative vehicles as well as commercial vehicles. No commercial vehicle can park at a residential property. That doesn't mean what the definition of that might be a commercial vehicle is different from the code's definition for a commercial vehicle. So it could be an F-150 that says, someone's plumbing company, that's fine. That's not a commercial vehicle per our code. It has to be 6-wheeled. There's an outline for certain things, not just 6-wheeled, but you can't have box trucks and tow trucks, things like that. And that's all outlined in our code. We do try and provide as much education as we can. So on our website, we do have, and we actually have cards in our office showing common code violations and tips on how to come into compliance or stay in compliance. We also have a Know Your Code video series on the website showing, and we're increasing that. That's something that was rolled out this year. So a quick little snippet on, codes for shutters or codes for parking and where to park and how to stay in compliance. So you can find on our website as well. these are sort of the properties and why we really exist. It's the these are all active code cases in one way or another currently. So unmaintained pools or unsecured pools. You have issues with a multitude of open storage, or so the bottom middle is actually a pool. It had at one point about 9 feet tall ferns growing out of it. The entire back door you can see there is completely caved in. If you push it, it falls in. So that property is actually now in compliance and looks beautiful. So through our process, or just excessive open storage as well. And this is a continuation of that on the commercial property end. We have areas of the city, especially with commercial properties, that do not look great. So this fiscal year, we actually have 2 full-time commercial code officers that we are hiring to deal with these issues. So there are issues, areas of the city that have gone unchecked for quite some time. So we're handling those issues: property violations, landscaping, maintenance requirements. You can see, you know, every property has for commercial will have a landscaping site plan. No one's looked at that in about 30 years. So trees that should be there, you know, plantings, irrigation systems that are required to be there per our code are not. So we are addressing those now. This is an outline of our current setup where we have 13 code zones. Each person maintains about 10 square miles, about 7,000 single-family residential homes in each zone. So it's quite a lot for our 15 or 16 field staff currently. Like I said, that number is bumping up to 18, but we're getting the 2 commercial specialists as well to focus on that. We also deal with, like I said, vacant lots. We deal with foreclosure specialty cases, things like that. So what we do across the board, enforcing every city ordinance gets a little tricky for us because we try and do as much with as little as we have. We have a staff that's a 1/10 of the size of the police department when we're dealing with cases that are, you know, 15,000 a year.
Can you just quickly touch on the difference between how a code officer will go out to a property when there's a complaint that comes in through the phone or versus just regular patrol?
So about 75 to 80% of what we do right now is proactive. Our staff are out there driving around. We look for violations. About 20% come in as complaints where we react to them. So if you do call, you leave your name and information per Senate Bill 60, we go out there and address those violations. But as a city, our policy has always been to, we want to get out there. We want to be as efficient as possible. We want to get that case open prior to a complaint coming in. And that's why we try to be as efficient as possible. So I have an internal mapping system that I created where you can ensure no area has gone unswept. So I do have my staff out there. We conduct weekly sweeps in the entire city. It's 120 square miles. It's quite a lot. A lot of how many, like 1,000 miles of roadway? Something like that?
No.
Or way more than that.
I think if you put all of our roads back to back in a straight line, it goes from like here to New York or something.
So it's quite a lot of area to patrol.
That might be the underground water main.
Something like that. I don't know. It's a lot.
Keep that in the back of your mind when Public Works presents to you at the end. They will talk about how long the roadways are and how long the water mains underground are and stuff. It's very interesting.
So that's the end of that. Any questions on code-related issues? So from our understanding, the reason behind the Senate Bill 60, which is the anonymous code complaint law, was to prevent someone from harassing their neighbor by issuing an anonymous complaint with the city. Every complaint I have to address, if it comes in that doesn't violate Senate Bill 60, if you call and leave your name and address for your neighbor every single day, I have to go out there every single day. and address those violations, potential.
But
That's a part of what we do. So the reason for our understanding is that they created that to prevent an individual from trying to use a city to harass their neighbor.
And so we try very hard to make sure that we find any way around this legislation. As of today, we haven't found a way around it, but we are tracking how many people call in and decide not to report after they find out. And it's not that many. It's about, what, 5 to 10%?
So right now, a month, the highest number we've ever received in any one month where someone calls in, says, I don't want to leave my name and address, and hangs up, it's 20. Out of, we open up 15,000 code cases a year. It's a wildly minute number.
So it is very important. We are very much against it, but we still go out and proactively sweep all the neighborhoods and look and have eyes out to try and catch everything. Sir, did you?
If there's already a lien on a house for violations, you mentioned that before. Obviously, they're not doing it.
So what we do is civil in nature. I can't arrest someone for having high grass, let's say. So there are properties in the city that have $100,000, $150,000 in liens on the property, and they willfully choose to not do anything about it. There's very little recourse that we have. We are unable to, per case law, to foreclose on a house that is homesteaded. If someone's living in the house, you legally cannot foreclose on that house, unfortunately. So our avenues become smaller and smaller on how we can go through. We do have a nuisance abatement program. We've entered properties before to remove inoperative vehicles, or to remove open storage, or to cut and maintain the property. So we do have avenues for us. However, if you have a person who says, stay off my property, it becomes more and more difficult. It's easier when the house is vacant. If someone dies and it's in an estate, people live out of the country, they have no idea someone owned the house in Port St. Lucie, and sometimes they don't find out until 7-8 years later.
But again, if you look at the comparison of the numbers of how many properties of those 15,000 cases we educate people on, and they come into compliance, or by coming to special magistrate and getting threatened for a lien, they come into compliance. It's like a large amount, 95, 98%. Really, those big nuisance cases are a very small percentage.
We probably have about 12 to 15 of them right now throughout the city. Some of them you don't really know where they are because we are cutting the grass, so you don't know unless you live right next door if it's vacant, or if neighbors will tend to park their vehicle in the driveway to make it look as if someone does live there. So.
Can you make someone paint their home?
No. So we have no design standard, and
But
there's
mold
no.
and mildew.
Yeah, we do have mold and mildew. You cannot have mold or mildew on your. That's a property violation. However, if someone decides to paint their house 15 different colors, we have no design standard for that.
If the house is looks really bad and it really needs to be painted, you guys can.
So yeah, our requirement under Section 41 requires that they can't have chipped or peeling paint, nor can they have mold or mildew on the exterior of the property.
Oh, and also regarding the fascia and the siding, also regarding fascia and siding decorations on homes, there's codes on that to make sure that they're not rotting or falling apart and so forth. But what I will say is everybody in this room and everybody that lives in the city has a code officer, right? It's not like the police necessarily, where a big group of police officers patrol all different kinds of areas. You have one code officer per zone or per neighborhood. So you can call our office at, you can either call the 1 PSL line or call neighborhood services and find out who your officer is in your neighborhood, and they are the specialist on code. Sometimes people come to me and they're like at the window and they're like, can I have a copy of the Code of Ordinances? I want to read it. And I was like, well, that doesn't really exist because if I were to print it, it would be something like this thick, right? So if you have any questions about code or about different codes or what exists, because each code of ordinance, each code book is customized to the city. It's created by the city. There are common things amongst all different municipalities, but there are also very unique features for different cities that are developed by staff and the elected officials and so forth. So you can call your code officer and ask just advice, like, what, is this a code violation? Is this not a code violation? And so forth, and get to know them, or, you know, ask your questions, and then know that all of your code officers, because Wesley's keen eye and his good map, he is making sure that every single code officer drives down every single street at one point in time during their cycle of a sweep. So they really shouldn't be missing a lot, and if they do miss something, the only way that we can get it is through reporting and leaving your information.
I have a question about the pool.
Mm-hmm.
Having fences falling down.
Mm-hmm.
Now, our neighbor has a fence in the back that's all fell down, but it's not facing my property. We have sticks holding it up, so it's not falling down. The pool is green. They don't walk outside of their house, and I don't think they could afford to fix it in the first place.
So one of the difficult parts about what we do is we're governed under Article 1, Section 23 of the Florida Constitution. So what our jurisdiction is essentially city property. We stand in the roadway and what we can view from the property or wherever we can access legally. So if the neighbor, let's say on the other side where they can easily access see the fences down and view the backyard, if they contact us, allow us to enter their property legally, we can view any violations that they can see from that property and address those with the violator.
So if they were to call you and say, I give you permission to come on my property and view this house from my backyard, would you be able to put in the thing without their name or with their name?
We would have to, because of the legalities of it, I can't enter your property without your permission, and I would have to document that
As
in the
of
case.
2021, this happened, call your governor's office
Yes.
and let them know that you are not happy about that.
I have a solution. Call in. Don't give your name. You know the call was made next week.
Still violates the law, unfortunately. Still violates the law.
I really appreciate you all staying later. I know that we kind of went over, but I guess this is a hot topic.
Yes, it's always fun.
And write to us anytime if you have any questions. Bolivar can give you our numbers and information.
Yeah, we also do have the department business cards on the back of the room, so you guys are more than welcome to take some of those. But any code questions, any NICE program or housing questions, you can always contact myself or Alex or Wes, and we'll definitely be able to get you guys that information. But I think at this point we can go ahead and wrap up. It sounds like. I just want to mention that for next week we will be meeting across the street at the community center for our next session. We'll actually hear from our Parks and Recreation department. They run a lot of different programs and a lot of different events and activities as well. So you'll get to hear from them next week over at the community center. But other than that, I don't think I have any other announcements for tonight, at least. Other than, of course, you guys are welcome to take the swag that's in the back of the room, as well as the leftover food. Please feel free to take that. But otherwise, have a great night, everyone, and I'll see you all next week. Thank you so much.